Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. Let's get started with our hosts, Linda McKissack and Dana Gentry.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. I'm Linda McKissack.
And I'm Dana Gentry.
Hey, Dana, how are you? I feel like it's been forever since we actually talked.
I know, I was going to tell you that too. I feel like it has been forever also. That's what, when we pre-record, it's nice to get ahead, but then I feel like we go too long without talking.
Yes, that's so true. That's so true. So I don't think I told you, but Diana called me and wanted to go to Dolly's grand opening of her museum.
She's been texting me. Are you going to go?
Yeah. Oh, I'm going.
I'm going to try to go.
Yeah, we're going to try because you never know. I heard she never misses one. Okay, but can I tell you I have a whole new girl crush?
Who is it?
Martha Stewart.
I have been.
So I think I'm going to put my guy on trying to figure out, I know it'll probably cost like a fortune, but a fortune. And how do I do a longer extended time with her? I don't want just a meet and greet. I want a lunch or something because my guy can actually set that up. He was going to try.
Why have you gotten obsessed with her lately? Have you been like hearing from her or something?
Okay, no. So I bought the master. She popped up on something.
I saw her master class.
I started watching it. I'm like, oh my God, I don't think big enough. And I think, what we're going to talk about today is kind of how do you keep your hope and what do big leaders say about times that we're in right now, like unprecedented, lots of change, all that stuff. And I think watching someone like her, I mean, it fired me up. I mean, I'm only just finished the first one. So you have to peel me off the ceiling by the time. I don't even know how many there are, but I'm going to go back and rewatch them because, she had lots of adversity. She went to jail and, right in the middle.
Okay, so I have got to tell you a crazy story about that though. You are not going to believe this. Okay. I'll make it short and sweet. So when I was in school, I got my start by spray tanning naked people. And so
oh my God, you did not spray tan her.
No, I didn't spray tan her. No.
Because she did spray tan, by the way, for that cover magazine.
I did not. I did spray tan Johnny Depp's sister all the time, but I didn't spray tan Martha Stewart. But this crazy thing. So the lady that owned the tanning bed that I worked at for years, and the reason why I kind of took it over and how I started becoming a leader when I didn't even know what a leader was is because unfortunately the lady who owned the tanning bed, I did not know this, but apparently she had like some sort of a unfortunate drug issue. And
that's bad.
And instead of, thankfully, the feds not kicking in the doors of the tanning bed, they kicked in the doors of her home. And she went to federal prison and she was in prison with Martha Stewart. And
no way.
Yes, at the same time. So she used to write us letters to she would write me letters and say what it was like inside there and then, check on the tanning bed. Like I pretty much ran it because she went to jail. And she would say, I'm getting to know Martha Stewart and she's a phenomenal person. And so she was in there for, I want to say maybe at least a year, maybe 2 years.
Gosh, so she got longer. Yeah, Martha got in, I don't know how long Martha got. I thought like 5 months. But, oh my gosh, that would be so interesting. Okay, so that's so cool. But the reason I did say that about in the very first interview, she talks about getting the cover of, what's the cover that all those skinny women get on? I don't even know what it was, but she got on it at 82.
What?
Yes, the swimsuit issue of something. I'm terrible about magazine. 82.
Martha
so that's
Stewart?
That's why she said, I'd never done a spray tan in my life, but I had to do one. So I'm sure they did it for her. But anyway, the whole point of this is there's so much hope when you watch things like that. So I, number one, would fill my time with stuff like that. Because every single time you're going to see that they had adversity too.
Yeah.
I mean, she has rebuilt her empire twice.
Yeah. Wow.
So imagine the kick in the gut. If you built your empire, now you got to go to jail. Because I bet you a lot of that stuff wasn't, she was believing someone else and just said yes, or made a bad judgment call, in the spur of the moment, which we can all do, unfortunately. Try not to, but can.
Yeah, remember what John Maxwell says. We've talked about this a million times. We're all just one decision away from stupid.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes, especially in a moment of too much rush or not time to, really process and think, what's the right decision here. I don't know what happened. But anyway, So what the point of it is it's so inspiring and hopeful. And so one of the things you and I are going to talk about today is our two of our favorite people are Dan Sullivan and John Maxwell.
Yeah.
And so I was teaching Profit Share Mastery Mastermind group a couple of weeks ago because Press was in Arizona teaching. And I promised them that right now, this is the good kind of stuff to share with people. So
Totally.
I pulled them up so that I could, this month, we could actually share them with them because I didn't have them with me at the time. But I looked at it and I said, okay, what is the two people that we really admire as leaders? What do they say about scary times or leading through adversity or through frightening times? And so, because we have a lot of agents that are just quitting the business right now, to be honest.
It's crazy actually. And I think I shared this, but some of the ones that I know that have gotten out of the business, like they sell a couple $1 million of real estate a year. I mean, they're not one or two houses a year agents. It's been interesting to see that. And I actually remember, Linda, when the pandemic started and we had the shutdown started. And I remember when I was on John's live Zoom when he shared the thing that you're getting ready to read, because I remember thinking, oh my gosh, like, what are we we didn't know if we were ever going to leave the house again. And John got on and did a live Zoom, and there were thousands of people on, and he shared the message that we're getting ready to talk about. And I just remember thinking, like, wow, good for him. Thank gosh he was the adultier adult and had some actual wisdom to say, because I mean, I had no idea what to do.
Yeah, because we'd never experienced it. And just the other day I was talking to somebody about it was our attorney yesterday. We were closing on a property, and I was talking about how now, looking back on the pandemic, I have so many regrets of what I didn't get accomplished when the whole world wasn't expecting anything from you. Yeah. And so I guess my question would be, what are we going to regret, when we kind of get our legs about us with these new changes and everything? What are we going to regret that we didn't do because we were frozen? Anybody who was frozen in fear, I'm never frozen in fear. And if I am, I'm not going to stay there very long, so I'm going to find some way to get out of it. But all right, so let's kind of go through. And what I want to do is kind of, okay, what are the common things they both say? And they might say them differently, but what are the common things that they both say? So the very first one, what I'm going to do is use Dan's. Dan's is called
Turbulent times, right? Something
scary times.
Oh, scary times.
His called scary times. Where's the other one? I don't know where number 1 through whatever is. Okay, well anyway, so
Dan's is Scary Times Success Manual: How to Be a Leader When Times Get Tough.
Yes, okay, and then John's is Leading Through Frightening Times. So they're both about how do you lead through them? Because hopefully what we have here is a group of leaders. So the number 4, I put forget about your losses and focus on your opportunities, which is what Dan says. Yeah. John says paint a brighter future. So I think they're saying the same thing. Focus on the opportunities, not necessarily, what's changing, what's scary, and all of those things. What would you say about that?
Yes, definitely. And it reminds me, I actually was going to tell you this before we started and I forgot, but I've gotten back obsessed with Marie
Forleo.
Yes, Forleo.
Everything's Figureoutable.
Yes, who wrote Everything's Figureoutable. You are the one who told me about that book. And a podcast that I like, this blogger that I follow she's from Kentucky, but she lives in Tennessee now, Mallory Irvin. She just had her on her podcast. And I listened to it yesterday morning, and she said something on there. Actually, I have to send you this episode. She has a new course coming out. We're both a sucker for course, but coming out in June that looked really good. But she said something that goes with this, in my opinion. And I literally grabbed a receipt from my car when I was listening to this and wrote it on the back of it. And I took a picture of it. And she said, human beings find happiness in progress. When we are not making progress, things get dark and we start to spiral. And I was
so true.
Oh my gosh, that's so true. Like anytime I start to feel like anxious or like, not in a good place, it's because I'm not making progress in something. And so I love what they're both saying, the same thing. Like, paint a bigger picture, go focus on other people, like go make some progress, because when you're not, you feel, at least I feel, I know you do, like just in the dumps.
Yeah. That's probably the most paralyzed I can get. So here's something that he says on this. Things you had and may have taken for granted sometimes disappear. And I am an advocate for preparing your life for graduallys and suddenlies.
Yep.
And I think that everything has a momentum, and the faster you do things, the better. So,
Yep.
what are we taking for granted right now? And because we're worried about what's going to happen next, in the summer or in the
Yep.
fall. Gosh, who knows? That stuff could drag on forever, right?
Yep.
What are we missing right now or taking for granted because we're so focused on stuff we don't even know what it's going to be like?
Yeah, totally. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because, I've been doing deep dives on the systems of our market centers and like where we don't have systems, and then where some of our systems suck, quite frankly, and then where other ones
Yeah.
are awesome so that we can
Mm-hmm.
replicate. But I have this whole spreadsheet, and like from now till the end of the year, this is like the one thing that I want us to focus on. But my aha has been, we've stopped doing during the pandemic. So let's just say during the
Mm-hmm.
last 4 years, we have stopped doing so many of the things, Linda, that really worked so well for us. And I don't know why we stopped. I'm like,
Yeah.
who decided to wake up one day and say, we're not going to do this anymore? We're not going to do that anymore. Or did we
Are you
just
talking about as
gradually?
agents, Dana, or as leaders, or what are you
Both.
talking about?
Both. Yeah. I mean, I think us on the brokerage side, we stopped doing things. And then I look at agents that I have conversations with, and they've stopped doing a lot of the things that
Mm-hmm.
they used to do that really got them where they were. And I think sometimes we just, I don't know if we just get away from it or how it happens or what, but it's so true. What you said is so true. And it's made me think like we need to stop sometimes with all the, new ideas and go back to like, what are the things that were working for us that we're working at a high level that we stopped?
Oh, funny you should say that, because I had my one-on-one call with Dan. I just called him and said, I've never asked for one-on-one, and I know you can have them, and probably not regularly, but anyway, so I just called and asked, right? You don't ask, you don't have. And it was so interesting. And I just told him about where our industry was and, kind of all that stuff. And he said, a great thing to do would be, we have this form called Experience Transformer, where you actually take the things that are working well. And then you also, he said, so find the 3 things that are still working extremely well. And then find the 3 things that aren't working anymore, right? But it kind of goes along with what you're saying. 9 times out of 10, we got plenty of things that would work. We just either aren't doing them right now, or we're not doubling down on those things that are actually working.
Yep.
And I think we get tired of, the reason I think we get rid of stuff that works is I think we get bored with it. It's Gary's thing where he talks about, success is boring, really, because you got to do the same things over and over. And one thing that made me say that is we had some new people that were with our company at Mega Leadership the last couple of days, and they're so excited and so fired up about us and who we are and what we have. And it's just a reminder that we might be the problem.
Yeah.
We might be the ones that can't see the forest for the trees. There's lots of good stuff always, and we're just not focusing on those good things.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Yeah, it gives you a good perspective when new people come into something, because they bring the energy and the excitement that maybe, we once had.
Yeah. So I love number 5. It says, forget about your difficulties and focus on your progress. And then John says, acknowledge the fear, but don't empower it. And under this, Dan says, things may not be as easy as they once were. New difficulties can either defeat you or reveal new strengths.
Yep. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Your body's muscles always get stronger from working against resistance. The same is true for the muscles in your mind, your spirit, and your character. Treat this whole period of challenge as a time when you can make your greatest progress as a human being.
Yep. Love that.
I love that. We're not looking at what is the opportunity here.
Yep.
We're just seeing the challenges in front of us.
Yeah. And there are going to be so many opportunities. I had this quote written down. I'm trying to find it. But I just heard from Brian Boero, the founder of 1000 Watt. He does tons of research, and it is a great company for real estate brokerages. And I've subscribed to them for years. And so I was so excited to hear him in person. But he said his big thing he talked about was we have to meet the moment, and there is so much opportunity. We're focused on the problem. We're not focused on what the opportunity is. And he said that this weirdness is an opportunity. Like everything that's happening in the real estate industry right now is an opportunity. He said, and truly, that's the only way to look at it, or you'll just drive yourself nuts.
Yeah,
And
so
I was
true.
like, God, that's so true. And he was talking about just the way real estate has transformed over time. And he said people freaked when they went away with the MLS books. And like
Oh, that big book. I thought I was going to never be able to sell real estate again. They took my big fat book away from me.
Yes, yeah. And he gave all these examples and you would know them, but it's like it's just crazy because he's like, there's so much opportunity. And he's like, look how much more real estate people have sold since then. And he said, you just have to really focus on what the opportunity is, not what the problem is. But he really focused with that too on like telling your story. And we've said this a million times, but if you don't tell your story, someone else will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the thing that we had at Mega Leadership, we had Steve Murray, who has Real Trends, and all independents, a lot of independents, not all, I wouldn't say, call him probably for advice. I mean, the real estate industry and the brokerage business calls Steve, and he kind of has a real good pulse on what's going on in the marketplace. But he said he's never had more people want to make a change or do different things, like do something different because they're just of what this is opening the door. So that's an opportunity, right? Those people would love to be with someone bigger and stronger. Those people would love to have the tools and systems that we have. But one of the things that he said, many of us have been through lots and lots of changes in the marketplace. The only difference in this one is we always come back to like it was. This one won't. This is it. True. This is the new norm. And, it's funny. I don't know why his thought was on that other than number one, NAR is going to, situation is going to redefine. But I think he was also talking about the market. Yeah. And the reason I think he was talking about that, and the reason I think he was talking about the supply is because Dan said the same thing to me. Dan said there'll never be enough houses. Yeah. Because of immigration and the way people continually want to be in this country for a better opportunity. Mm-hmm. That's to him, he feels like that's going to be the new norm too.
It's so funny to hear you say that because I was just talking with Sarah Weber, my partner on our team, and we were having a conversation this week, and she said, well, you were in the market in 07, 08, and you just got licensed right before that. She's like, I'm just having such anxiety. She's like, did you feel like that then? And I said, honestly, I didn't know any different because I had just gotten in then. And it was drastically different because we would list a house and it would sit on the market for, 90, 120 days.
That was 6 months.
Or if it was a luxury, it would sit on for 4, 5, 6, 8 months. So I said we were just it was such a different time then because now we don't have the inventory and it's not really seeming to be that we're going to get the inventory back. Like we're still in low inventory and we're going to stay that way. So it's drastically different than comparing it to 07, 08. So I told her, I'm like, yes, it was a hard time then, but it's just different than what it is now.
Well, and that's what Steve Murray said. New agents don't know what the market, it's the best time right now to get new agents because they don't know the difference in the market and they'll just figure out how to work it. So that's exactly right. I got in the first crash in the late 80s and early 90s, and it was like 20 going to 18% interest rates. How do you sell a house in that? People would freak. But the only difference is prices were lower, right? But still, at the time, the consumer was shocked. Nobody wanted to buy or sell. We had to come up with strategies of the seller buying down points, that kind of stuff. It's real interesting. Yesterday, I was at our attorney's office, and we were closing on a property, and Brad was telling me that Brad's my brother-in-law who took over my team. He was telling me that right now buyers are actually walking. And I'm like, they're walking with this short of supply. And he said, if it's not a great house, he said, if it's a great house, they, are still giving over and things like that. He said, but if it's not, he said he had somebody ask for a brand new air conditioner and heater. And the mechanics guy said, you don't need one. And he wanted a new hot water heater, and he wasn't going to budge. He'd walk. Wow. It's like crazy. But you know what? You just deal with what you have. And so I think that's, what they're saying here is forget your difficulties and focus on progress and figure out where you can get progress anywhere that you can get it. Yeah. And take advantage of the opportunity that a lot of agents are going to run the other way, and
Yeah.
you run into it. You
Yeah.
go head first into it.
That is exactly what Brian Boyero said too. Same exact thing. He said that's the biggest opportunity is coming out. He also talked about like how there's such a chance for thought leaders right now.
Mhm.
And like I always think that's one of the things that makes John Maxwell and Dan Sullivan so great. Like they're always relevant still.
Mhm.
They're
Yeah.
such great thought leaders. Like they're out thinking above everybody else. And he said that there's so many people that are just on the negative train, that it's such an opportunity for there to be true thought leaders created.
Mhm. Number 7 that Dan said was forget about who you were, and focus on who you can be. Many people define themselves by external circumstances. When these abruptly or unexpectedly change, they don't know who they are. So they keep trying to be who they used to be. And then John said to that, be cautious, predictions, and generous with hope.
Yeah. Yeah.
So talk about who they can be. Who can you become because of this?
I love that. I love what John said in that because it is so true right now. So many people are like getting out, making all these predictions of stuff, and I think you have to be really careful when you're,
Yes.
yeah, I don't know anybody that has a crystal ball. I know we all think
Yeah.
Gary does, but he doesn't. But I mean, you have to be really careful when you're coming out with strong predictions. Like some people
Yeah.
are on, YouTube right now and Instagram, and they're predicting all these things. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, I don't know that that's the smartest thing to do right now.
Yeah. Or you got agents out there telling the public stuff that is not even true because it's not finalized yet. It's like, what are
Yeah.
you doing? But
Yeah.
they're
Well,
using it as an advantage to really just, I don't know, capitalize on it, I guess.
yeah.
I'm not really sure.
Well, I heard something lately that I thought was so good, and they said there's a difference between an earner and an influencer. And I think you that's true. You just have to be really careful because people see influencers and think that, what they say is like Bible, and it's really
Hmm.
not. Like you want to say like how much have you earned? What are you
Yeah.
earning instead of just getting on and talking.
Yeah. So true. Yeah. We don't always get the evidence. And, I learned that a long time ago in the real estate industry is, they'd put somebody up on a pedestal, and then, and somebody just asked me this the other day. Somebody else went flaming like a, what are those called? Shooting stars
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
business. And someone asked me, is that normal? And I said, it actually is. I could probably point to 4 or 5 people who look like they were going to be these amazing
Yep.
rock stars. And I don't know if they just implode or they don't have ethics. I don't know what happens. I'm sure it's different for each one, but you just look up and you're like, where the heck are they? They're just not
Yep.
even in the business anymore.
Yep. Yeah.
So I don't know what happened.
But
So
I think that's true, Linda, just to say that though really quickly on that. Not everyone, I believe, will be able to actually like meet the moment that we're in the market. And so it will cause people, I think, that we thought at one time were going to be great or they had been great. Like I do think that not everyone will be able to meet the market of the moment that we're in right now. And we will look up and see some of them disappear, I think. And I don't mean that like in a scarcity negative way. I think it's already happening.
yeah. So one opportunity I've kind of been thinking about is some talented people who built really good businesses may be looking ready now to do leadership.
Yeah.
Honestly, that
Yep.
they'd never thought about it before. And they thought, you know what? I've got some wisdom. I've got some knowledge. I've got some skill. I've got some success.
Yep.
What if I could lead other people to success,
Yep.
and not, be doing this for the rest of my
Yeah.
life?
Yeah. That's very true.
Yeah. So I had lunch with a recruit yesterday, been in the business forever. Her and I actually started together. She's the one when I tell the story about my friend and I went to a Mike Ferry retreat,
Yeah.
and we made a pinky promise that we were going to go to the desert in August together. And I was so excited because I saw hope in how to do this business. There was a man on stage telling us that there's a way to do this business when there was no training, no education, nothing in your local markets. And then I said, after when August came around, because this was about January, she went out and did what we got a real job.
Mm-hmm.
She went to work for Relo. And so her and I were laughing about that because she didn't go. I took Jimmy. And because I took Jimmy, we worked together to build my real estate team. Later, eventually he would join me. Then the other part of that is, and again, this is where we need to understand nobody succeeds alone, and we need people more than they need us. Because later, when we were climbing out of that $600,000 debt, she's the one, because she knew about REOs. Back then it was the RTC properties. She called me on a property that was $15,000. That's the property that we talk about in wealth building that brings us in more money today than the Social Security that Jimmy gets for 40 years of working.
That was
and
her.
We still own, it was her. So it's just full circle. And so I'm doing a KPA on her, and I'm just kind of, looking at her to see what could be a great, opportunity for her in her life,
That's so cool.
More for her to help get to know herself than for anything else. But it was just a great meeting,
Yeah.
And I'm always reminded that people matter, and getting in as many relationships as you possibly can.
Yeah.
Always is one of the greatest uses of anybody's time.
Talk about come full circle.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
wild.
It's funny because she manages actually the Ebby Holiday, which is where I came from, in our local area. And I went to a board event, which I never do anymore because, I'm usually on the road traveling.
Yeah.
And it just happened to be in town, and it's here. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to go. And she was there, and she said she almost didn't go.
Wow.
So, and she's got a son that's real talented that might be our future Mitch or somebody like that.
Oh, that's cool.
So I'm kind of excited. I love it in those moments when this kind of magic happens with people.
Yeah.
And you go, oh my gosh, I love this. And I don't, the only way you can recreate it is make sure you're always meeting with people.
Yeah.
And we're beginning to be such hermits. I know myself, I like my downtime, and I like, I need to go fill back up, but I'm like, where am I missing opportunities to bring someone along or go to lunch with somebody or, do a KPA on them, help them discover who they are. She's going to retire eventually. And so she wants to know, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
Who am I if I'm not this?
Yeah.
So I'm excited to take her through the process.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love that. We should all be doing more of that, a lot more of that.
Well, every time I go to a leadership meeting, the one thing I walk away with, Linda, is how many provisionings are you doing?
You always say that. Yeah.
And it's never enough. Pull out my calendar. I'd be totally embarrassed.
Yeah.
Totally embarrassed. Right.
Yeah. Same.
So, any last comments, anything you saw in here that jumped out at you? I want to read one last thing. And if you have something, jump in, but this says on the bottom of, I want to say this one might be John's.
Okay.
Be cautious with predict. Okay. So it says the unique challenge of leadership is making today work for tomorrow, especially when today seems to threaten that there won't be a tomorrow. But the only way there won't be a tomorrow is if we give into the fear today.
Yeah.
Leader, your people are looking to you to help them find the security and strength that will allow hope to take root in their life. It's a significant ask, but one that you're capable of if you'll stay visible, present, realistic, and hopeful. In all my years of leading, I know this for sure. Fear never lasts until you feed it. As a leader, it's your job to starve fear by feeding people hope and showing them a better picture of what's ahead. Give your people the hope they need to hold on to. We may cry today, but there's joy coming our way tomorrow. I love that because whether you're a leader or not, you could just say the same thing to yourself. Like I'm watching Martha Stewart right now. It's giving me so much hope for a future that I don't even know what the future is of it, but it's hope and I love it. And I just, I'm just excited about the opportunities, and that's what we have to focus on.
Yeah. Gosh, now I'm going to have to add Martha Stewart's masterclass to my list of all
There's just not enough time. There's just not enough
time. I know.
I think we need a year sabbatical just to do all this stuff. But I think what would happen is the year would end and we'd be like, God, we didn't get enough stuff done.
I know.
If COVID came over again, I would spend all my time focusing on relationships and learning all this stuff I love.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's so good. There was one last thing I just wanted us to touch on, and it was actually in Dan's, and it was at the end when he said, "Focus about your forget about your complaints and focus on your gratitude." That is while that sounds like, sometimes I think when people say like, oh, are you doing your affirmations? Or have you made your grateful list, can seem like kind of airy fairy. I have been focusing on that, Linda, lately, and it is like completely a mindset changer
Yeah.
to really focus on like what you truly are, because there's so many things that I just feel like we take for granted. And I love what he said in here. Gratitude creates the opportunity for best thinking, actions, and results to emerge. Focus on everything you're grateful for, communicate this, and open yourself each day to the best possible consequences. And it is true, because it like completely switches your brain from all the crap or the negative stuff when you're thinking about things that you're grateful for. And I'm going to send you, when we get done, I'm going to send you the song. But Brandon Lake, we went to his concert this past weekend, and it was so good. I just love him. He's a good Christian artist. But he just came out with a new song called Country Psalm, like Psalm, the book in the Bible. And I've been listening to it every single morning on my walk, because it makes you think about, like, it's, some of the lyrics say, praise the Lord, I've got so much to be grateful for. I've got breath in my body and hope in my scars. If I counted my blessings, they'd rival the stars. And I'm like, God, that's so true, because
so true.
Even though there's so much that we could be complaining about right now or focusing on, we still, like, there's so much to be grateful for. We just, I think, sometimes don't think about it unless we are focused on it.
That's so true. And this reminds me of an exercise that I learned, remember, years ago when I can't remember the guy's name, that he was one of our speakers. And this wasn't even what his talk was about, but this is the one thing I hung on to. And later I took some of my leadership people to San Antonio to spend a day mastermind with him. I don't think you went with us, but anyway, it was awesome. He gave us the best idea. And we should be doing this right now. Walking up to people and say, hey, tell me something good.
I remember you saying that.
And the reason he taught it was, he said, you always have that person that always has bad things to say or negative things to say, but I think you could just do it with everybody. Moves people, shift people's focus to, hey, tell me something good. Because immediately they have to go and think of something good. So that might be our new way we address people is, hey, tell me something good. And what a great way to set the stage for someone who really would love to come up to you and complain.
Very true.
Shift their mindset real quick. Awesome. Well, remember, if you have not hit our subscribe button, please go ahead and do that now. And our greatest compliment you could pay Dana and I is to pass this podcast along to anyone that you feel like could benefit from these conversations. And if you have a topic, a challenge, an opportunity that you'd love for us to address, or even a great guest that you think we should interview on our podcast, be sure and reach out to us at info@everything life and real estate. And don't forget to give us that 5-star review so that other people can find this podcast. Dana, I guess I'll see you next week.
Sounds good. See you then.
Be sure to subscribe for more business strategies and tactics to inspire you to live an abundant real estate life. Don't forget to rate and review so we can bring you the best content. Find this and other valuable information at everythinglifeandrealestate.com.